Hello, I'm Forrest Shaw, and I've got a problem. My guest today is Kelly Ebsary. Kelly is an aspiring carnivore. I said I wasn't going to read this, but I'm going to read it anyways. She's an aspiring carnivore who, in her spare time, enjoys senior Tuesdays at the Yucca Valley Ross Dress for Less and returning dead plants to the Home Depot. More importantly, though, she's appeared on FX's Snowfall as the unhinged pot dealer, Guadalupe Gutierrez, and the hit sitcom Fresh Off the Boat. She's also been on The Office, Saturday Night Live, Disney's Good Luck Charlie, all sorts of other credits, films like 200 Cigarettes, The Accidental Husband. Go to her IMDb. It's Ebsary, Kelly Ebsary, and check out everything she's been in. Thanks for being here, Kelly. What's your problem?
Well,
Yeah.
I am a chronically fatigued, clinically depressed, morbidly obese, asthmatic incest survivor with sleep apnea, attention deficit disorder, and systemic yeast overgrowth, and a number of process addictions and chemical addictions. But other than that, I'm great.
I feel like that's not the first time you've said that altogether.
No, it's not. I've been doing that inventory for a long time.
Oh, okay. You just didn't practice for this podcast. It was, yeah. I don't even know if I can recall everything you said, but there was a lot of stuff in there. But I am happy you're here. We met, I guess, almost a year ago out in the desert at, what was the name of the festival again? I'm sorry. It was the
Comedy Camp Out.
Yeah, Comedy Camp Out. Yeah. It was their first annual.
The first annual Comedy Camp Out.
Yeah. Which was interesting. That was an interesting place. Had you been to that place before? It was at the man, I can't remember the name of it. I'm gonna look it up right now.
The Palms in
The
Wonder
Palms.
Valley.
Yeah, I had driven by
No,
that.
it's famously, it's a very, very. It was my first time performing there, but they do have a very good hamburger, so it was not my first time there.
Yeah, I had never even been there. I stay at my friend's house a lot of times. That's where I was at there on Morongo Valley, and a lot of times I'll drive back and forth to Vegas to do shows, and so I've driven by it because I like going that way where you go through the Mojave and desert and by all the sand dunes and all the cool stuff. So I've driven by it probably 20 times, and I was like, I'm going to go in there sometime. And then I just pulled up in the parking lot, not even realizing that's where I was going, and I was very excited. It was as advertised. I think there was I did a joke about conspiracy theorists, and it occurred to me as I was saying it, like being in the middle of nowhere out in the desert, I was like, oh, there's definitely some people that are not going to be digging this joke. And I talked about flat Earth, and then after the show, this woman comes up to me and she goes, "Yeah, how do you know the Earth's not flat?" And I was just like, "Okay, here we go." I said really quickly, I've never said this before. I just said, "Oh, my uncle's an astronaut, and he's been to outer space, and he has pictures of the Earth." And she goes, "Ah," like it was like an argument. She goes, "I'd like to see those pictures." Mike, he died. He can't say anymore.
Wow.
Are you a flat earther? Maybe you are.
Secret ice wall in space or whatever it is that they believe. I don't know either way, and I don't really give a shit. That's probably part of my problem as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, I haven't done the research to prove it, but I was a scientist, and I've read enough stuff that I believe it. But yeah, all right, this podcast is over, Kelly. How is it? How long have you lived out in the desert there?
I've been out here about 8 years. I say I got vomited from Los Angeles after I got really sick. I was a first responder at Ground Zero. Unintentionally, I was on my way to shoot a commercial in New Jersey when the planes started hitting the buildings, and I ended up volunteering at Jacob Javits Center, preparing meals for the steelworkers and the volunteers, and then I got recruited by FEMA, and then I got pulled back down to Battery Park City right there as a community liaison. And this is probably when I became a conspiracy theorist, because all of the infrastructure for FEMA was already in place. Tuesday, September the 11th, Friday, I had my orientation with FEMA, and my supervisor said, "We've been here since Sunday." I'm like, "Hmm."
Oh,
You
my
know, I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those
my
things.
manager listens to this podcast, and he'll be happy to hear this. He'll be
Yeah,
happy to
but at
hear.
any
Yeah,
rate,
it's gonna be right up his alley. Like, trust me.
yeah, I ended up, I it took me a long time to realize the damages because I'm a pretty vibrant soul. But little by little, I developed these weird reactive things, and, I mean, I could show you pictures. This is crazy. This is really pretty too, because I just
Sure.
happened to be
A lot of people listen to this, but I mean, some people watch it. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well, I ended up with this weird
Oh wow.
condition where, like, I lost all of my hair, my skin was peeling off, I weighed 400 pounds, couldn't breathe, I couldn't pump my own gas, like, I couldn't be in an aisle with cleaning products. But I didn't have stage 4 liver cancer, so I didn't think I had issues from my exposures, but I did. And it's taken me it took me a long time because, and also just like being an addict and blaming myself for everything. I always think it's me. Something, there's something I can do to fix this. Um I can change the something that I'm eating, or I could exercise 3 hours a day. I could, but basically I was just beached on my sofa. I was unable to function, and my cytokine count was 22,000, which is basically like what someone with stage 4 liver cancer would have. I just blessedly have not ended up in that situation. So I left Los Angeles to live in the desert because it's what a lot of people with my kind of conditions do. And I've seen, I don't remember the name, some of these documentaries about people with chronic inflammatory response or mold sensitivity, or I watch them, I'm like, "Oh my god, these people sleeping in a
Mhm.
tent and throwing away all their possessions," but that's what I did, and it's been the most important thing for my healing, was getting out of a rent stabilized moldy bungalow in Santa Monica and just coming to this desert. And I do sleep outside. I have a bed in my yard. I have a tall 6-foot fence and a security dog. No.
Mhm. Wait,
But
every night you sleep outside?
no, 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 no. Now I'm pretty spoiled because my house that I finally was blessed to purchase 5 years ago is newer construction. There's no mold, there's no swamp coolers, which is the kind of cooling devices that most of these older structures have, and they're kind of deadly for me. So I have like HVAC and tile floors and no mold, so I can sleep inside.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's cold in the winter there. Yeah,
It is
outside.
cold.
Uh, it's yeah, it's funny when I go out there. I really first of all, I didn't just going back to 9/11. I I don't think I ever think about it that often too. Everyone's always like police officers, firefighters, port authority. Yeah,
Actresses.
yeah. Which I mean, obviously, all deserving of the praise that they were given for all
Mm,
of the work that they did. But as soon as you started thinking that, I was like, oh yeah, there were tons of other people that worked just putting, like you said, putting meals together for the steel workers too themselves. I mean,
yeah.
or the people like removing the debris and but then all the infrastructure that was required to support those people like that you were doing. So
Well, I was
yeah.
helping initially, I was doing that, and then ultimately when I was my official position was community liaison, and I was helping basically the residents of Battery Park City who, like, needed to get their cats, needed to get their medicine. They didn't have
Mm.
access to their apartments.
Oh yeah.
So, and it was just, it was such an unprecedented event that it was just like data gathering for like unforeseen
Yeah.
situations that people needed help with.
Sure. Yeah. It's yeah, yeah, exactly like you said, unprecedented. As far as the desert, it really reminds me when I'm out there of what the Florida Keys used to be. Not climate wise, because I know you're talking about climate and stuff like that for health reasons, but just a place where people are kind of I'm not saying escaping like they're running from the law or not, but just getting away from a different life, and that's what where I grew up in Miami and the Florida Keys was always like that. It is not like that now. and there's a lot of money down there and a lot of development and a lot of
At
things have
that.
taken over down there. But it used to be just like this 130-mile little strip of islands, and you could find all these little pockets where you're like, yeah, this is just I live in this little shed here, and I
And
go out on my boat
similarly,
each day. Yeah,
my memories of the Keys, because I grew up in Florida as well. It is sort of this weird kind of quirky little occult aspect. Like there's the military, and then there's
yeah,
dissidents, and then there's the gay community, and just yeah, people trying to like create their own vibe.
yeah. I didn't even think about that. Definitely military presence, Key West specifically, and the Marine base out there, and then and yeah, gay communities for sure. That yeah, that's yeah. There's even more than I thought, but and then being an addict out there though, is it more difficult, less difficult? Does it even really even track at all, like something like that? Because it's isolation. There's maybe not as much support, or
Well, I was thinking about this when I first came up here. I've been a sober alcoholic for over 35 years. But I wasn't into AA. I have so many other process addictions that I have to focus on that, it was like, no time for AA. I'm not drinking. Who cares? But I did start going to AA up here because it was like the only light on in the dark. And I actually did begin to build my community, um, going to AA meetings here in the desert. And um, I was thinking this morning about this, this transition because now, after the lockdowns, and the plague, everything is online. I'm on a Zoom meeting every morning for two of my, it's like a Debtors Anonymous slash Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and it's kind of fucking great. Excuse me, am I allowed to say the F word?
yeah, of
Because
course.
I see my friends from New York, where I lived for 22 years, and I see my friends from Los Angeles, and I've met friends, who live down the hill in Palm Desert. And if I don't like someone, I can curate my home screen and just move them over to the other page, or I can mute them, or I can just
Yeah,
get off the meeting without being rude. But I do have, unfortunately, I was just thinking we lost 3 people once lockdown started here from our recovery community because our clubhouse closed. And I had such
mm,
a resentment about it. And I still do, like people that were there every morning at 7. One of them, he ended up, hanging himself in his cabin. I mean, it's very desolate here.
yeah,
And those meetings are lifesavers. And I don't know how anybody could get sober. I mean, I don't know how anybody could get sober on Zoom. I mean, you need face-to-face meetings when you have it's just yeah. And then another young lady like OD'd on pills at her house, and it's just like, but at the same time now I hardly ever go back because like often what I will find at an AA meeting in the desert is like untreated sex addicts and lots of cookies. So
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to be groped and I don't want to eat carbohydrates at a 12-step meeting. That's just
Yeah.
me.
A lot of cigarettes, yeah, usually, but
A cigarette.
another addiction. So yeah, but yeah, it's the Zooms are tough. I travel around so much that I do Zooms.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's really easy when you're on a Zoom to just, turn off your camera, go to the
Yeah.
bathroom, and you're not really present. But also the personal relationships is a big thing. One thing that happened with COVID, at least for GA, my experience is there's a lot of park meetings during COVID, like meetings. I don't know if you went to any of those. They're
I
quite
have them
funny.
in my yard.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
was thinking because one of your questions, like, what's the greatest thing you've ever done for recovery? Is like I was having these, secret face-to-face meetings in my yard, and it
oh,
was
wow.
super naughty.
Yeah. Well, I there was one I would go to during COVID, and it was in a park somewhere in Burbank. And this is all online, by the way, if it were it was. So I'm not like, giving away anything. But and sometimes we would set up so close to the sidewalk where people were walking by that there was nothing anonymous about it. You'd just be like sharing it. Someone would be like running by, you'd be like, okay. But there are a few holdovers from that. There's a couple, and that's for anybody that lives in LA and needs to go to a GA meeting, go online. There's a couple that are in Griffith Park,
Mm,
but that's such a nice park, and it's in this really
yeah.
nice area and stuff. And I believe that's a holdover from COVID. So I was kind of like, well, that's cool. So the Zoom things is from COVID, but are not. Look, I should say if you need to go to a meeting, Zoom in, because it will help. But yeah, I like the in person better for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing for me because most of the meetings that I really need, like Debtors Anonymous or Adult Children of Alcoholics or SLA, like they don't have those meetings up here. And
Yeah.
the one like DA meeting I tried down in the lower desert, they were like discussing like basically in Debtors Anonymous, you don't use credit cards. Like you don't use unsecured debt one day at a time. And they were like discussing interest rates on various credit cards at the Debtors Anonymous meeting. And it was like, no, ah.
Mm.
Anyway, I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense. But
Yeah. I was
the very
wondering about that.
sophisticated level of recovery around these process addictions that I need are available on Zoom.
Debtors Anonymous is interesting because I don't know if that's something that look, as a gambler, you don't have any money like when you're gambling, like, and you develop this relationship with money that becomes unhealthy when you're a gambling
Right.
addict because you don't value it the way you should. You don't look at it as the tool that the way you should, or nothing. You just have a very unhealthy relationship with it. So thus I've had an unhealthy relationship with money for most of my life. And I continue to have that.
Mm.
And, I'll put myself in debt and then I'll pay it off and stuff. But when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, maybe that's something. But that being said, I try to use credit cards more than cash because cash is is the beast for me because that's how you gamble. So I try to
Oh,
like when I go to
interesting.
Vegas, I don't want to have any access to cash. Like I just want to have credit cards. I don't have any brick and mortar banks that I can go to,
Right.
because that's the problem. So like, I'm going to Australia here and I
Right.
guess it'll be this week when this comes out. And I've been there a bunch and I'm going to set myself up for success so that I don't gamble, but gambling is everywhere in Australia. You think it's
Mm.
prevalent here. Not only is it like, do you have like phones and but any pub has slot machines in it there. There's a lot of them. They're called VIP lounges.
Huh.
So like anywhere you want to, like any block or two, you can walk and there'll be slot machines in a pub. And it's so easy when you're drinking and going. So my whole point is like, I'm going to go in Australia with two credit cards and
Mm.
that's it. But I mean, there's always something I think when you can only be so vigilant and like those kind of roadblocks that you put up. In the end, it's got to be what you're doing with your own brain. So,
Yeah, it's
but
tricky because basically, um, I I've been through so many levels of recovery in DA. Like when I first started DA, and which was right after, well, actually, I had started it right before 9/11, and then, I was just living in so much chaos and deprivation in New York. Like I wouldn't know, my electricity be turned off. I'd be like blow drying my hair in the hall to get ready for an audition. Like just no clarity, no consistent earning. And then when I would earn, I would earn a lot of money shooting a commercial or doing, a production contract. And I would just spend it, it's sort of the same as like saving still doesn't make sense to me. Like I'm so resistant. Like I just started a savings account for my property taxes, which I've been paying for the last 6 years. They come up twice a year, every year, and it's like, oh, this actually is an expense that is ongoing. And and it's like I'm so resistant to just like putting, 10% of my income in a tax account because I mean, I'm I don't think we should be paying property taxes, but that's just me. I don't
yeah,
have
that's a
children in school, and I don't need the roads. No.
I I mean, not to bring up Australia again, but some people listen to this that are in Australia and they can write to me and tell me what the exact thing is. But their property, it's not what it is here. I think they have like it's like a set. I forget what it's called, like stamps tax or something like that. I forget, but
Huh,
I think it's like maxes out at like something like 500, 1,000. I'm talking out of my ass completely, but I just know
right.
from my buddy Jim Jeffries that he goes on and on about the property taxes here and how much they are, and
That's
you know,
insane.
the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who is I'm not a fan of at all for many reasons, though. He claims he's going to get rid of property tax there. I was like, well, good luck with that. I don't know how they don't have even have
Well,
state
I
income
mean,
tax.
we
Yeah,
lost our family home because of property taxes. Like once my
yeah,
parents passed and they lost the homestead exemption, the property value, for this little beach cottage on the Gulf of Mexico that my dad bought, in the late 60s for like $38,000, all of a sudden was this, almost $3 million beachfront property. And,
yeah.
it's like the property taxes on it were insane and we just couldn't do it.
By the way, I agree with you. If you're married and you have kids, you get tax breaks. I'm like, why do you get tax breaks? You should pay more tax. Like
Yeah, and you get all the free shit when you get married.
yeah,
You get your toaster and, your registry. I'm like, I have to pay for all of
well,
that.
yeah, yeah. If you are bringing more people into the world, that okay, maybe if you're married, I get it. You're in one house, so you're using technically, but the whole thing about kids being a tax break, no, there's too many people here. There's too much traffic. If you have kids, you get taxed more. I'm
And they get
100%.
to go in the commuter lane.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
like, what
definitely
the
win.
hell?
There's no politician that would ever win with that platform. That's what I'm saying. So that's yeah. But and then the savings account too is I always look at those like again like as a gambler and stuff. I'm like yeah, but you can just take it out of the savings account. Why the account's right there? I need an account where you put it in and they're like you can't touch this for 3 years. Not like the IRAs and stuff. Where like there's a penalty if you take this out. Well, okay, I'll just pay the penalty.
Right, who cares?
But,
That's even
yeah.
better. Like my cash bulimia will be in full effect. I can just get rid of it as fast as possible. Get rid of the
Anyways,
money.
I think there's a lot of people that agree with us about the tax. If you're all my friends have kids, they're gonna be like, "Fuck off." So, um, do you?
Then I would say, fuck right off. No.
Again, I don't think this is gonna be a popular, and it's politically, it's never gonna get done. But it just doesn't make sense. Is what I'm saying. Um, do you? So 35. You said 35 years for drinking.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, yeah. Do you like? Because you say you go to AA out there now because you hadn't gone to that before. It's because of the isolation or something. Was that something that like kind of crept back in, like feelings or something like that when you moved out there?
It was the isolation, and definitely I'd say when I moved out here, I would just mostly I think I started to dilly-dally again with weed and was never out of the food, so I just like I needed a 12-step environment where at least I could just be around other addicts no matter what they were doing. The alcohol for me wasn't like some big victory, like I put it down. It just made me so sick. Like I'd started drinking at a very, very early age and I'm like a blackout drunk. Like the first time I drank, I ended up naked on a golf course with a broken elbow. It's like it's just the way I rolled at the country club. And in my home, like the alcohol was like an altar. It was like a very fancy bar and fancy bottles and and towards the end of my mother's life, I was watching her one day. She had these bottles of liqueur that I remember from the 70s that they had moved over. We had sold the other house, they were living at the beach house and she had full dementia. She had full dementia and she toddled into the cabinet and pulled out these vintage liqueur bottles and was pouring this like goopy syrup into glasses, all, like from 3 different bottles. And I didn't say anything because at that point I was in Al-Anon. It's like I can't stop her. I can't say anything. I can't change. There's no, and but I videotaped it. Like, don't forget, this is what this illness looks like. It doesn't stop. And honestly, her last words to me were, "Get me a drink, god damn it."
Mm.
When she was fully in dementia in hospice care at home, she never forgot she wanted a drink.
Yeah, that's tough, I guess, to yeah, to go through that. But then also, I guess there's nothing because you're just gonna get into an argument, right? That you can't win if you were gonna like say anything or try and stop her from
Well, in the end, because both my parents were drinkers, and I would say volume drinkers, like not quality, like, the Albertsons giant handle, and
Mm,
they didn't think we knew they were drinking because they would drink it on the rocks, like in tumblers. Like especially once I moved to California, I knew I'd have to call by noon because they would start, by 9 in the morning, just straight vodka on the rocks, and then I guess once my mom like broke her hip because she was well, she was old, she was weak, but she was also drunk. And she's no one would really I was like the only one really into like the consciousness of like our mother is an alcoholic, our father is an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic. I have other sober siblings, but there's just like a fish like in the water they swim in. Like it's so hard to like, oh, this is an alcoholic home. This is what's happening. Our father is continuing to give our demented mother, who started with alcohol dementia and then became full Alzheimer's, alcohol all day, every day. So finally, about a year before she passed, after, the hip replacement and she became really debilitated, my brothers made a bottom line, like, we're not going to, you can't stay in the home and continue for us to have to take care of you if you're going to continue to drink. So the alcohol was removed from the home. But that to me is just like, that's part of Al-Anon too, is like you can make a boundary, but then you have to stick by it. And it's not because you're trying to control the other person. You're trying to not just to curate your own reality. Like I will be here for you if this, and if they don't accept the boundary, then you're going to be put into a home.
yeah.
I mean, it's just like kind of, you know, I have many friends struggling with active addiction. It's so painful because but it's like every time I try to like take any action towards being what I think is helpful, it's not helpful. The most helpful thing I can do is, attraction rather than promotion. Like just live my sober life, keep, keep doing the best I can do to, just to take care of myself. And if they want to take care of themselves in that way, they can do it too. But in the meantime, I don't hang tough, right? I don't
Yeah.
hang tough with my people who are in active addiction. I may meet them at the dog park every once in a while, but
Yeah.
like, I just can't.
Yeah, it's I think I had a couple friends just because I mean for gambling wise
Mhm.
that have asked me point blank, do you think I have a gambling problem? And I was like, well, that's still not going to be for me to decide. But are you asking me my unprofessional opinion as a gambling addict? And, I'll tell them, yeah, no. I mean, I've had friends that have asked me that and I've been like, wow, no, not unless you're doing something I don't know. but,
Mhm.
you know, uh, but then other ones where I'm like, yeah, I mean, you seem like it. But again, that's up for you to decide. You have to, and I think that's really, smart what you said. Like, you can't, it's really hard to convince people of that or get them to change or whatever. You can just do what you can do for yourself as an example. And that's what I do. I talk about it on stage a lot. I have jokes about it and I'll talk about it. And I guess, not I guess, that has triggered some people to call me or reach out to me and talk
Right.
about it, which I think that's another way. And that's why I'm doing this podcast too, because I just feel like there have been people that listen to this podcast and been like, "Oh yeah, I just stumbled upon this, and then I listened to a couple episodes, and then I was like, oh, it made me realize X, Y, Z." And I'm like, "Oh, great," because I think it's all for the person to figure out. Because like just as we were talking, I'm like, "Huh, my debtor problem, deading, probably." I need to look into that.
Well,
Um,
it's for me, it's so like, I have one credit card that is, well, I have an American Express card, which is not allowed in Debtors Anonymous, but I do have it. But I have a guaranteed credit card that I can use for rental cars or blah blah blah. But mostly I use my debit card, but I do not use my debit card online for recurring Netflix or blah 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 because it's not safe to put your debit card out there like that. So,
Yeah, it's also hard to travel with a debit card. I mean,
Yeah,
it's you just said like rental cars, you can't. I mean, you can, but they're going to take the deposit out. Hotels are the worst. Like you'll pay for a room, and they're like, "All right, we're going to take $200 for incidentals," and then that comes back to you a month later, or you're going
right.
to make like three phone calls that just like, "Can you just give me back the money?" Like, so it's like all this, So it is hard.
But I
Um,
definitely don't spend the same way with a debit card that I do with a credit card.
because it's real. It's real money,
It's real
right?
money. And that's
Um,
the other habit, that's part of my sobriety and debting as I sit here. I finally found an app that works for my record keeping that looks like it was written by a 3-year-old. Um, but I sit here and I co-work, with another recovering debtor, and we do our numbers together, and I just write down everything I earn and everything I spend. And then this app, keeps like categories, and these are deductible categories, and I'm still like a 3-year-old. Like, I can't believe I'm a homeowner. It's insane.
yeah. It's what was I gonna say? They don't it's real money if it's your debit card.
Right.
And when it's real money, when you know it's real money, you behave differently. Again, bring it back to gambling. Like when you're at a casino, you turn in your cash to chips. They do it for several reasons. One is because it's more convenient to it with chips,
Mm.
but they like that because chips don't they're plastic. Doesn't feel real. The only real money you'll see when you're gambling at a casino, sometimes there's a 50-cent piece because they have to give it if there's like a blackjack,
Mhm.
have like a $5 trip on there. But yeah, it's all just plastic. And so if you're stacking like $700 in plastic chips, you're like, that's not even really $700. But it's the same concept, I think, with credit cards where you're just like, I don't have to pay that back right now. Just
And then
like,
all the shenanigans with, like, rewards, like, "Oh, I get 10% extra," or I had an Airbnb, and, I mean, the way my mind works, I don't have a no whatever. I don't have a normal reactive mind. Like, I have a trauma. I have a trauma-based mind. I'm very reactive. I couldn't handle crypto. I couldn't handle the apps. I couldn't handle my Airbnb. I had a profitable Airbnb down in Desert Hot Springs, but every time I'd get a message on the app, I would get wired for sound. I'd be up all night. It didn't matter if they were asking for a spoon or a toilet brush or a refund, or I couldn't handle it. Like, I had to let go of the business because I couldn't handle it. And it wasn't profitable if I had someone else managing it. I had to do everything myself. So it's just the way I'm wired. So I have to do everything I can to just, it's like keeping the numbers. It's like honestly one of the best meditations there is. That's my presence practice, right? I'm not that girl who can sit there like for half an hour. I'm like chanting or doing yoga or doing my numbers, or like it's a moving meditation to sit there with the numbers. And it's also kind of acknowledging that we're in the matrix. Matrix is based on numbers. And if I want to have some agency in my lifestyle and how I live and my serenity, I'm going to keep track of this shit. And I think like knowing what you need and what you're earning and what the gap is, or what it makes a difference. Or like, what am I allocating to what, right? Am I going to, what? I want to get this set together, and I'm a jazz singer, and I'm going to pay this arranger. I'm going to go sit with this arranger. I'm going to pay him $85 an hour. We're going to work on my charts. I'm going to have my professional iPad that I paid cash for, and I'm going to get these charts done. Instead of like, I'm going to get a Nordstrom's rack, and I'm going to buy another pair of clogs and some earrings, and then I'll feel better for today, and then I'll go buy some ice cream over at Handel's, and that'll be my day.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's the same amount
yeah,
of money.
yeah, yeah. What problem do you think you were trying to solve with addictions?
I just think it's your basic annihilating your consciousness, and I think the primary addiction for me is fantasy. Whether it's, definitely in our industry, show business industry, it's very fantasy driven, and it's very like chasing the carrot, and, having these, and I've come close, I came very close. It wasn't sustainable for me. And I don't, that's kind of like looking back on the 9/11 thing. Like it is kind of when my career started going, "Brrr." I'd be like a little jobs here and there, but I was on a pretty steady trajectory upwards. I had like very powerful management. I was meeting with and I was at a certain level, and it just, what the fuck am I talking about at this point? I don't even remember what you said, what you
Problem you're
asked.
trying to solve, yeah, but yeah. So you said you're conscious, I
Oh
said, "What
yeah.
problem are you trying to?" Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
You're on the right
fantasy,
track.
fantasy,
Yeah,
like
you're on the right
fantasy.
track. Yeah,
Like I get cracked out on fantasy. Whether it's like what I think an item is going to do for me, a person's going to do for me, a job's going to do for me. And the withdrawal from fantasy like is the most, it's worse than withdrawing from sugar or alcohol or drugs. Like especially in the, I kind of am reticent to mention this because people don't, it's such a kind of woven in like, well, everybody's a sex and love addict and blah blah. Like, no, not everybody's a sex and love. Everybody loves sex. Everybody wants to have lots of sex for the most part. Although part of sex and love addiction is love avoidance and sexual anorexia. That's like a whole nother thing. But fantasy, right? Like getting so like ahead of your skis in terms of like where a relationship is going, could go, or mostly for me, what I project onto another person that they just most of the time really don't have. Whether it's, a capacity, stability, that they care for me, that, it's just the with I get so high on my fantasy or every time I'm up for an acting job, right? Like, oh, I had this audition for this scene with Kathy Bates and blah 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 blah, blah. And I get cracked out. I get totally cracked out. And then, every time I'm just like dropped, right? It's like, well, God, guess what? That production is literally the only thing shooting at Paramount right now. So
yeah,
the chances are pretty shitty that you're going to book it. No. This is like
yeah. What's a small thing someone did that helped you more than they know?
Oh, well, my cousin, it's kind of, I was just looking at this. This is kind of silly. I lost a lot of relatives lately, including my own parents, the not so distant past. And one of the pinnacles of my career was, doing a 3-year run in Les Miserables, playing Madame Thenardier, which is the role I always wanted to play. And I auditioned for it for 10 years. I went in every 6 months and sang. This is in New York. And so this poster, I'm going to move my computer. Les Miserables, that's like the signed poster of my cast.
Mhm.
Um, when my parents died, my niece took that poster. And I was like, I wanted that poster, right? But I can't take it from my niece, right? But when my aunt and uncle passed, he brought me that poster. And it means a lot to me. And he also brought me this, it's like this little plaque that was on their house that said Madame Thenardier slept here. Because
Yeah.
when I was running the show in San Diego, I slept at their house. And it was kind of funny, like this historical society thought it was like, who was Madame Thenardier? Like they were like, you can't change the facade of your house, because Madame Thenardier slept here. But that was kind of it seems like a small thing, but I actually just ran across this morning when I was decluttering a drawer, and it was a big thing because it made it like it helped me like re-tap into like sort of the pinnacle of my achievement, and that dreams can come true even
Yeah.
if they eventually become a nightmare. That's
Such a tough business though, where you're just like you're just
it's
like
true. Yeah, it's really tough.
what song best describes your addiction?
I was She Came from Planet Claire by the B-52s or Around Midnight. No.
I don't know if I know the B-52s, but I think I only know their hits. So I don't know. Like
um,
she came from
She
planet.
Came from Planet Claire. I don't know. I guess Around Midnight. I actually just saw the B-52s at the Hollywood Bowl. It was awesome with Devo.
Oh wow.
It was amazing, amazing concert. I saw them
Well,
twice in the 80s too.
I didn't know they were still touring B-52s.
Oh, they're on point. Like, you would think your career's over at 60, watch these fuckers in their 70s. I don't know
Cool.
what kind of devices they had backstage, if they were like sticking Fred in a bariatric, not a bariatric, a barometric oxygen chamber between songs, something. I don't know because their energy was like off the charts.
Yeah, I always think as a stand-up comic, like, man, musicians, their stamina, it's like, I because there's so many of them that are older still, like David Byrne was still
Oh
touring
yeah.
around doing his whole thing, and he doesn't just stand still either, he's like, obviously the Rolling Stones, like people like that. I just like look at him and was like, what? Like I gotta lean on a stool every 5 minutes, like just to, or the mic stand or something like, yeah. But yeah. What's the dumbest excuse you ever told yourself to justify your addiction?
I don't even think there's a thought process when I'm in my addiction. That's to me kind of that choice is taken away when I'm in active addiction. I don't have a choice about what goes in my mouth, who I spend time with, what I buy and how I buy it, or what I drink or what I snort or what, it's like that's kind of, you know, there's not really any big like, well, I'm doing this because this is like I'm doing this. I'm doing it, you know.
Yeah. And I think you just answered this. Like, what do you think is the worst addiction? You kind of just said it. What you thought was it was living in fantasy, right?
Yeah,
Right.
fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when you said that. I wasn't going to bring it up until we got to this question because, um, yeah, I definitely do that, but it never really occurred to me. I didn't. I mean, I know that I do it, but it never occurred to me as that being an addiction in itself, kind of, but yeah, I think that that is part of the addict mind where you're just like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, this, and that, and when this happens, then I fix that and do this, and then I don't,
I
and
mean, especially
and
gambling, right? Like the big
oh yeah,
payout.
yeah. I mean, in the book that you read, when you go in, it's there's a whole section in there that's just about like the fantasy
Mm.
of winning it big and then kind of being like the hero to everybody. Like,
Uh,
okay, I know I fucked everything up and I owe you money and I did this and that, but hey, I got money, so everything's gonna be okay now. And
yeah.
number one, obviously we all know that's not true. That money doesn't fix all that. And also that's probably not gonna happen because you're a gambling addict. You're gonna gamble the money that you win away
Mm,
anyways. Too. There's plenty of times I've won lots of money. And as soon as I won that money, I already divvied it out. Well, that chunk is still for gambling. And then I'll take this and I'll pay this loan down or
right.
whatever. So, what is one word you would use to describe your addiction?
I fucked, you know.
Yeah, good
I
one.
mean, it fucks me and now I'm like I've broken my addictions. My addictions are officially broken. Like when I occasionally and like okay, 2 nights ago I ate some jelly bellies and I woke up with like rash on my tongue. My right knee was swollen. It's like I am so clear about like cause and effect when it comes to
Yeah.
my behavior and my choices. It's there's nothing fun left for me when it comes to addiction. It's like I'm so conscious at this point. It's like there's really there's nowhere left to run for me in addiction. And I'm in
Yeah.
that hallway and I feel like, the better days are yet to come.
What about okay? Well, what about one word that we use to describe your recovery then?
I'm gonna intimacy and community. Something I don't have when I'm in my addiction.
Yeah, nice. And then your proudest moment in recovery so far, you said, was holding these meetings or these sessions in your yard.
That was pretty proud.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool. What like was the impetus for that? Obviously, we're in COVID and things are,
because they
but
closed our clubhouse,
yeah,
and we didn't have Zoom yet. And then, it was sort of a core group of naughty, like, I mean, I used to like drive to Arizona to eat in a restaurant and have a pedicure during lockdown. I'd be like, fuck this, we're going to Arizona, we're free. Like, I just refused to like, I just, I just would not feed it. I would not feed that reality. I absolutely refuse it. And I grew up, in weird this is a whole nother podcast, like there was a reason I mistrusted the government. And as it turns out, I'm unfortunately, I feel like I was on point in my incredulous approach to that whole system. I just was like, nope. So yeah, just staying free. And I know it cost a lot. I know people judge it, and it's okay. That in itself was a spiritual exercise. Just being like the Buddha who's like emanating freedom, emanating courage, not being in fear, just taking the best care of myself. And then, also like, a plague is not a big threat for me. I've been suicidal most of my life. So it's like, bring it. Like, that's a good way to go.
Yeah. What's the worst advice someone gave you while you were struggling?
Yeah, just go to the gym. Go to the gym.
Yeah, easy.
Go to the gym. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah. What the fuck is a bootstrap, anyways?
I
I've
don't
seen
know.
boots. I've never seen a strap attached to them. Is that like something that you put boots on with or something?
Could be S&M related. I don't know.
I got to
I
Google
wouldn't
here.
know. I wouldn't know.
Bootstrap. What is that? Oh, well, there's some images here. There's a
What
little
are they?
strap. Oh, I guess it's, when sometimes boots have those things around the bottom, like
Okay.
a like they go around and then there's a chain or something around the bottom. I
Okay.
don't know. I think you attach a spur to it.
Oh, it's like equestrian.
I don't know. They just put in bootstrap, but this is also just like they're trying to sell me bootstraps. So this might not what they're talking about what they're trying to
They're gonna keep trying to sell you those bootstraps until you pull the trigger. It's
Oh
gonna be in
no.
your Instagram feed, every
I just cleared
square.
my cookies. Good. So um and then lastly, what advice do you have for someone that is struggling? I mean, you've given a lot of good advice, but yeah, something else.
Aw. Be transparent, be courageous, tell the truth, find your tribe, trust yourself when it comes to like people that make you feel good and people that don't make you feel good. Find the people that make you feel good. Go towards the warmth, go towards the light, and things can get better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you, Forrest.
Kelly Ebsary. Ebsary. Did I said your name right at the beginning? I think I just said it wrong. Ebsary. Am I
That's
saying it
right.
wrong? Okay. I said it right both times. Can edit it out. Thanks for being here.
All right.
Thanks again to Kelly Ebsary for being on the podcast. Much appreciated. I am headed to Australia this week, everybody. If you are in Australia, well, I'm only going to be in 2 cities. So if you're in Adelaide or you're near Adelaide, come to the Fringe Festival, February 17th through March 1st. I will be performing my show, The Ocean Hates You, at the Howling Owl every night at 7:15 p.m., with the exception of Monday, the 23rd. I'm dark that night. And then I will be in Melbourne at the Comics Lounge Saturday, March 7th, performing The Ocean Hates You there as well. A couple of people have asked me about that. The link is up. It's on my website, forrestshaw.net. It's on my Instagram. I'll be doing some other shows in Melbourne, but I don't really quite know. I think it's going to be kind of some random stand-up shows here and there. I'm going to be doing the Comics Lounge as well, too, the 4th through the 6th, but I'm not sure if they're billing me on there or not, but for sure, March 7th in Melbourne. And then I'll come back and I'll be at the Comedy Cellar in Las Vegas, March 16th through the 22nd. Then I'll be on the road with my buddy Jim Jeffries in Dallas and Austin, and Portland and Seattle and Omaha and Kansas City. And I will also be coming to Florida. I'll be doing The Ocean Hates You at the Comedy Inn on Earth Day, April 22nd. I'll be at the Green Turtle Inn, April 24th and 25th in Almirada, Florida. And a bunch of other dates. Go to forrestshaw.net. Oh, yeah, I'll be in Lake Tahoe as well, Harvey's Casino in April. April 3rd and 4th. Go to forrestshaw.net. Also go to the podcast page when you're there. If you feel like donating to the podcast, there's a little button there. As I always say, please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the podcast. And leave a suggestion. Leave a suggestion. Yeah, well, you can leave a suggestion. You can leave a comment. That'd be great. Feel free to contact me if you ever have any questions about anything related to the podcasts or addiction or anything like that, I'm pretty sure someone sent me an email, by the way, and it went to my spam. It might have been a couple weeks ago, and I looked in the spam and I was trying to get it into the inbox and I deleted it. And when you delete it in spam, it's gone forever. So if you wrote to me and I did not respond to you, write back to me. There's a contact form on my website, or you can write to me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform you like. And as always, if you're feeling shitty, feeling suicidal, feeling like things aren't going well, call the suicide and crisis hotline in your country. In the United States, it's 988. In Canada, it's 988. Go to the Wikipedia page, list of suicide and crisis lines, and find the number there. Thanks for listening, everybody. Love y'all.